On the morning of August 22nd, 1485, a king stands on a ridge overlooking the Leicestershire plains, the sun at his back. Below him, an army of 10,000 men, a sea of polished steel and royal banners, awaits his command. He has the high ground. He has the numbers, more than 2 to 1. He has the crown of England fixed to his war helmet, and he has a train of artillery, the new thunder of war, ready to tear his enemy apart. On paper, this day can only end one way. The rebellion will be crushed. The king will be victorious. But this is the end of a 30-year civil war, a war of cousins and of kings, where loyalty is a currency more precious and more volatile than gold. And on this field, King Richard III has a problem. His 10,000 men are not the only army present. Off to one side, a third force of 6,000 stands silent, their banners unmoving in the morning breeze. They are commanded by the Stanley brothers, men whose loyalty is a shadow shifting with the sun. Richard holds Lord Stanley's son hostage, a guarantee of his support. But in this brutal age, even a son's life is no guarantee at all. The fate of a kingdom does not rest on the strength of armies, but on the whisper of a single word: treason. And by sunset, that word will echo across this field. A king will fall, a dynasty will be born in blood, and a mystery will begin that will last for 500 years. The air cracks with the roar of cannon. Richard's guns open fire, great iron balls tearing through the morning mist and into the ranks of the challenger, Henry Tudor. Below, Henry's 5,000 men, a desperate mix of exiles, French mercenaries, and Welsh recruits, flinch under the barrage. Their commander, the veteran Earl of Oxford, knows he cannot win a waiting game. He orders the advance. Henry's banners, emblazoned with the Red Dragon of Wales, begin their slow march uphill into the teeth of the royal army. Richard watches as his most loyal commander, the old Duke of Norfolk, leads the vanguard in a thunderous countercharge. The two armies collide with a sound like a breaking world. It is a brutal, grinding chaos of hacking, stabbing, and shoving. The air fills with the shriek of steel on steel, the thud of arrows into shields, and the guttural shouts of men encased in 60 pounds of plate armor, fighting for every inch of mud-soaked ground. For 3 decades, England has torn itself apart in a conflict they will one day call the Wars of the Roses. Now, all that hatred, all that bloodshed, is focused on this one small patch of earth. The sheer weight of Richard's numbers begins to tell. The rebel line is buckling, pushed back by the relentless pressure. Henry Tudor's dream of a crown is turning into a nightmare. Watching from the ridge, Richard knows this is the moment. One final push will break them. He turns and signals to his reserve, a massive block of fresh troops commanded by the Earl of Northumberland, one of the most powerful nobles in the north. The order is given: advance and end this. But Northumberland's banners do not move. His thousands of men stand motionless on the hill, watching their king's army bleed. Whether it is a grudge born of old family rivalries, a misread signal, or the first cold act of betrayal, the result is the same. Richard is alone. His advantage is slipping away. In the swirling chaos of the main battle, a cry goes up. The Duke of Norfolk has fallen, cut down in the melee. A wave of shock ripples through the royal army. Their momentum stalls. The battle grinds into a bloody, desperate stalemate. Richard scans the field, his frustration turning to fury. His commanders are failing him. His numerical superiority means nothing. And then, through a gap in the smoke and the chaos, he sees him. Henry Tudor, the pretender himself, moving with just a small company of bodyguards, trying to reach the wavering Stanley forces to plead for their aid. Henry is exposed. He is vulnerable. For a warrior king like Richard, a man who has fought in battles since he was a teenager, a man whose very identity is forged in combat, the sight is an irresistible temptation. Why wait for the loyalty of uncertain lords? Why depend on men who will not fight for him? He can end this war right here, right now, with his own hands. It is an incredibly audacious, all-or-nothing gamble. But for a king with nothing left to lose, it is the only move that makes sense. He calls for his household knights, his personal retinue, the most elite and loyal warriors in his entire army. They gather around him, a small band of perhaps 200 horsemen. Richard looks at them, then across the field at his target. He is not just a king, he is a commander. And he will lead from the front. Upon his helmet, he wears the crown of England, a circlet of gold that gleams in the sun. It is a declaration to every man on that field. He will win this day as their king, or he will die as one. With a shout, he spurs his warhorse, White Surrey, forward. The small company of knights surges with him, a living spear of steel and fury aimed directly at the heart of the rebellion. The ground trembles under the thunder of their charge. They crash into Henry Tudor's bodyguard with stunning force. Richard fights like a man possessed, his battle axe a blur of motion. He smashes through the line, personally striking down Henry's standard-bearer, the giant Sir William Brandon. The red dragon banner of the Tudors, the symbol of the entire rebellion, falls into the churned mud and is trampled underfoot. Richard carves a path of destruction through Henry's retinue, unhorsing another famed knight, Sir John Cheney. He is now within a sword's length of Henry Tudor himself, a battle-hardened king face to face with a rival who has never before witnessed the true horror of combat. For one fleeting, heart-stopping moment, it seems the impossible gamble will pay off. The war, the crown, the kingdom, all of it is his for the taking. It is at that exact moment the world turns upside down. Sir William Stanley, who has been watching from the wings, finally makes his move. He gives the order. His thousands of fresh, rested troops surge forward. But they do not charge to support their king, they charge to save Henry Tudor. Stanley's army slams into the flank of Richard's small band of knights. The heroic charge instantly becomes a death trap. Richard and his loyal men are cut off, surrounded, engulfed by a tide of fresh enemies. In the chaos, Richard's horse, White Surrey, loses its footing in a patch of marshy ground, a mire that will one day be confirmed by archaeologists. The king is thrown to the earth, unhorsed and on foot, a fatal disadvantage for a knight in heavy armor. His followers scream at him to flee, to save himself, but Richard refuses. He knows he is betrayed. He knows he is doomed. He roars his defiance, his voice raw with fury. Treason! Treason! He will not run. He will die a king. He fights on foot, surrounded by a forest of enemy steel. His helmet is torn from his head, its strap lightly cut, leaving him exposed. Blow after blow rains down upon him. Modern science will one day read the story of his final moments, written in the scars on his bones. 9 separate wounds to his skull tell of a sustained and brutal attack. Shallow cuts from a sword raking across the top of his head, a puncture wound from a dagger just above his right eye. But the fatal blows come from behind. A massive, shearing injury to the base of his skull delivered by a halberd, a fearsome poleaxe designed to crush armor. If that doesn't kill him, the next blow does. A blade, perhaps a sword or a long dagger, is thrust upwards into the base of his skull, piercing directly into his brain. King Richard III, the last Plantagenet king, the last English monarch to die in battle, falls. With his death, the will of his army shatters. The battle is over, a crown is lost, and a dynasty is born. In the aftermath, Lord Stanley is said to have found Richard's fallen crown. Legend claims it was discovered in a hawthorn bush, an image the new Tudor dynasty will eagerly embrace as a symbol of providence, a crown plucked from the thorns of civil war. Stanley places it upon the head of his stepson, Henry Tudor, now King Henry VII. But for the vanquished king, the humiliation is not over. Richard's body is not treated with the respect owed to a monarch. It is stripped naked, lashed over the back of a horse, and paraded back to the city of Leicester for all to see, a final brutal piece of propaganda to prove that the old king is truly dead. After 2 days on public display, his remains are given a hasty, unceremonious burial in a simple grave within the Church of the Grey Friars, a local Franciscan friary. There is no royal tomb, no grand funeral, just a quick end to a violent story. But history was not finished with Richard III. Decades later, Henry VII's son, King Henry VIII, breaks from the Catholic Church and orders the dissolution of the monasteries. In 1538, the Grey Friars Friary is torn down, its lands sold off. With the church gone, the precise location of Richard's grave is lost. As Leicester grows and changes over the centuries, the king's final resting place fades from memory into myth. A popular story claims his bones were dug up and thrown into the nearby River Soar. For nearly 500 years, King Richard III simply vanishes, and that is where the story ended. A dead king, a lost grave, a legend of bones in a river. Until the year 2012, an unassuming city council car park in Leicester becomes the site of one of the most incredible historical detective stories ever told. Driven by meticulous research and a powerful intuition, a screenwriter named Philippa Langley convinces archaeologists to dig beneath the asphalt in a spot marked with a painted letter R. On the very first day of the excavation, just hours into the dig, an excavator's bucket scrapes away the gravel and reveals something impossible: 2 human leg bones. Over the next week, a skeleton is carefully unearthed, and a cascade of stunning evidence emerges. The remains are of a man in his early 30s. Richard was 32 when he died. He was buried in the choir of the Lost Church, exactly where historical records said he would be. Then, the most astonishing clue. The skeleton's spine has a severe, dramatic curve. Scoliosis, a condition that perfectly matches contemporary descriptions of Richard's physique. The bones are riddled with battle wounds, a silent testament to a violent death. 9 injuries to the skull, consistent with losing a helmet in a fight. And 2 horrific fatal wounds at the base of the skull. The skeleton is a perfect match for the historical accounts of the king's last stand. Radiocarbon dating places the remains in the correct time period. The lost king had been found. After 527 years, a journey that began on a bloody battlefield ended in a crude grave and was lost for 5 centuries under layers of myth and asphalt was finally over. In March 2015, in a solemn procession watched by millions around the world, Richard III was given the honourable burial he was denied in 1485. His remains were laid to rest in Leicester Cathedral, just a few hundred feet from the car park, where he had lain forgotten for so long. The story of the king in the car park proves that history is never truly lost. Sometimes it is simply buried, waiting patiently, just beneath our feet. If you found this dive into one of history's greatest detective stories as fascinating as we did, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more tales of lost mysteries and forgotten history. And let us know in the comments, what historical mystery should we investigate next? Thanks for watching.